when she first immigrated to Australia, she was bullied for her name. So she named me Jessica. The most popular name in Australia the year I was born. She was like, no one will know. No one will know. She will fit right in. I grew up in Perth. Perth is the most isolated city in the world. Perth is so white. The last time I was home, my hairdresser said to me, it was so hard growing up here as a person of colour. He's Italian.
Good morning. It's Friday, Fight Song Friday, March the 6th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we'll have Varney and Company, motivation, meditation, and the Cold War. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now, Stuart Varney.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Varney and Company picks it up now. Stu, take it away.
Maria, thank you very much. I had forgotten that we spring forward this Sunday.
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. And good morning to you. And good morning, everyone.
Hey guys, you had...
We shouldn't have cut her off. We have the jobs report and we have the oil report. This is what's going to move the market today. We'll start with jobs. Surprise, surprise, in February, 92,000 jobs were taken out of the economy. Not expected. The unemployment rate came in slightly higher, 4.4%. Not expected. Labour Secretary Laurie Chavez de Rima will join us in just a few minutes. Now, the other important number, that is the price of oil. The news is that the price has gone up some more. West Texas crude is over $87 a barrel. Shipping traffic is still stalled going into the Straits of Hormuz. We don't have enough Navy ships yet to offer escorts. The price of gas, that's moving up. $3.32 a gallon for regular national average. It's gone up 34 cents in the last week. Energy Secretary Wright told Fox this morning that it would be weeks, not months, but weeks before the price comes down. Now, there's plenty of reading for the stock market, as you might expect. The Dow could be down 650 points at the opening bell. The Nasdaq down about 400. That's a sea of red. Bitcoin is below 70,000 bucks a coin, right at 69,000 right now. Interest rates, well, they're at a higher level. We're looking at 4.15 on the 10-year Treasury. The 2-year coming in now around 3.55, but above 3.5%, moving up actually to 3.58. All right, on the show today, Kristi Noem is out. The president wants Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin to run Homeland Security. ICE policies are likely to change. It may be that the policy to deport all illegal migrants will be scaled back. A new Fox poll shows deep public disapproval of ICE's appointments. It's Friday, March the 6th, 2026, and we are wrapping up a tumultuous week. That's what happens when an energetic president flexes his muscle and moves to change history.
And that was Stuart Varney, Nonprofit News Now. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now a little motivation.
Put in the time. Yep, you did some workout. Yep, you studied a little bit. Yeah, you put in some time, but you ain't put in the time that's required to make your dreams become a reality. You can't shortcut success. You gotta grind, and you gotta put in the time. If you had the qualities of fortitude, grit, discipline, mental toughness, you wouldn't need a program for your finances. You wouldn't need another fitness program. You would understand how to execute. The missing link is and always has been you.
In order to be the best, in order to get to the next level, you gotta sacrifice. You gotta be willing to do whatever you're asked to do. There are no shortcuts to success. There are no discounts to success. It's always sweat. It's always blood. It's always tears. You always have to give all to be the best.
I'm not gonna sit around and wait for good things to happen to me. I'm gonna grind. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna do everything in my power to become the very best version of me. When you do the things most people aren't willing to do, you will live the life most people never will.
If you're willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory, then you will not regret it.
If you stay in bed, if you stay on the couch, if you stay in your comfort zone, if you only do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, if you get up, if you grind, if you are relentless, if you work as hard as possible, when other people are slacking off, your life will be easy.
1 plus 1 is always going to equal 2. 2 plus 2 is going to equal 4. And 10 years of work, when everybody else is partying, making excuses, doing the cool thing on the weekend, is going to pay off.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. And now, a little meditation. And that was a little bit of meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the Cold War.
February 26th, 1991. The border region between Iraq and Kuwait. 0300 hours. The desert floor is shaking, but not from an earthquake. It is the idle rumble of a dug-in mechanized division. Inside the cramped metallic belly of a T-72 tank, an Iraqi commander strains his eyes against the periscope. Outside, the night is absolute. The smoke from burning oil wells to the south has blotted out the stars, turning the battlefield into an ink-black void. Visibility is effectively zero. This is the Republican Guard. They are not conscripts. They are the elite, hardened veterans of the 8-year war with Iran. They know tank warfare. They know that in this weather, and at this hour, the battlefield is static. To engage a target, you need to see it. To kill a target, you need to be within range. In the doctrine of armored warfare taught to them by Soviet advisors, the lethal envelope of a tank gun is rigid. 2,000 meters. Maybe 2,500 if the gunner is exceptional and the weather is clear. Beyond that, kinetic energy rounds lose their velocity, wind drift ruins accuracy, and the probability of a hit drops to near zero. The commander checks his position. They are part of a defensive screen, hull down behind a berm of sand. They are waiting for the coalition ground offensive to grind into their kill zones. They feel secure. The American and British forces are miles away, mere ghosts on a map. There is no engine noise on the wind. No thermal signatures on their primitive infrared sights. Just the silence of the desert. Then, physics breaks. There is no muzzle flash in the distance. There is no warning. There is only a sudden, violent overpressure event. One moment, the T-72 tank to the commander's immediate right is sitting in silence. The next, it ceases to exist as a fighting vehicle. A hypervelocity penetrator, traveling faster than the speed of sound, slams into the turret ring. The kinetic energy transfer is so massive that the 40-ton vehicle shudders violently. The ammunition carousel at the base of the turret, the fatal flaw of Soviet auto-loader design, detonates instantly. The turret, weighing 12 tons, is ripped from the hull and tossed into the air like a tin lid. The shockwave hits the commander's tank a split second later. He screams into the radio, demanding a situation report. His crew is scrambling, panic rising in their voices. "Mine strike! They hit a mine! The gunner yells, "Negative." The commander roars back. "No mines, we are in defensive positions. It was an airstrike." It has to be an airstrike. A laser-guided bomb from an invisible aircraft above the clouds. That is the only logical explanation. No tank on Earth can fire a shot that accurately, in pitch darkness, without revealing its position. But then, it happens again. 3,000 meters down the line, another fireball erupts. Then another. The cadence is slow, methodical, and terrifying. Crack, boom, crack, boom. The Iraqi radio network descends into chaos. Battalion commanders are screaming for coordinates, but there are no coordinates to give. They are sweeping the horizon with their optics, desperate for a muzzle flash, a tracer, anything to indicate where the fire is coming from. They see nothing, just the black wall of the desert night. The reports flooding in are impossible. Forward observers claim the impacts are coming from a vector nearly 5,000 meters away. 3 miles. The commander freezes. 3 miles? That is impossible. It is physically impossible for a kinetic tank round to travel 3 miles and hit a moving or dug-in target with lethal force. The dispersion would be massive. The optics required to see that far at night do not exist in their inventory. The Soviets assured them that the T-72 tank was the apex predator of the ground war. It had thick frontal armor, a powerful 125mm gun, and a low profile. It was designed to withstand the best NATO could throw at it. Yet, they are being dismantled, one, by a phantom. This is the terrifying reality of the Gulf War, a conflict that would brutally expose the technological gap between East and West. But before we reveal the machine responsible for this massacre, we need to understand the mystery of how one side could see in the dark, while the other was left to die in it. If you want to understand the hidden history of military technology and the cold, hard facts of warfare, make sure you are subscribed to Cold War Impact. We decode the machines that changed history. Back in the turret, the Iraqi commander makes a fatal calculation. He assumes that because he cannot see the enemy cannot see him. He orders his driver to reverse, to break the hull-down position and seek better cover. He engages his infrared searchlight, an active IR beam that helps his night vision equipment. To the naked eye, the beam is invisible. But out in the darkness, miles away, a sensor suite picks up that beam like a flare in a dark room. The Iraqi crews do not know it, but they are fighting a war against time travelers. They are using technology from the 1970s against a machine that has brought the digital age to the battlefield. The enemy isn't just shooting better. They are doing math that the Soviet designers never accounted for. The commander waits for the airstrike to end. He believes he is weathering a bombardment. He does not realize he is being stalked by a single ground vehicle, a predator that is sitting stationary, completely silent, watching his heat signature on a glowing green screen. The confusion among the Iraqi ranks is total. They are firing wild shots into the dark, hoping to suppress infantry or light vehicles. They are wasting ammunition on shadows. They believe they are fighting a conventional battle, where range is dictated by eyesight. They are wrong. The rules of engagement have changed. The distance between the combatants isn't just physical. It is a generational leap in lethality. And as the dawn threatens to break, the Lion of Babylon, the pride of the Iraqi Armored Corps, is about to realize that it is not the hunter, it is the prey. The panic on the front line transmits instantly to the Iraqi divisional headquarters, buried deep in a reinforced concrete bunker miles behind the berm. The air inside is thick with cigarette smoke and the static hum of Soviet-made R-123 radios. Senior officers hover over tactical maps, grease pencils in hand. They are trying to plot the enemy advance, but the data does not make sense. The reports coming from the forward armored brigades are hysterical, fragmented, and contradictory. Brigade 46 reports 20% losses, a communications officer shouts, pressing a headset to his ear. They claim they are under heavy artillery fire. Artillery does not hit moving targets with direct impacts, the general snaps back. Artillery creates craters. These reports say turret separations. They say clean penetrations. That is direct fire. The general stares at the map. He draws a line from the reported positions of his T-72 tanks to the known positions of the British 1st Armoured Division. He measures the distance with his thumb and forefinger. The gap is massive. 4,000 meters. Maybe 5,000. He throws the pencil down. Impossible. In the 1970s and 80s, the Soviet military academies taught a very specific version of physics. They taught that the maximum effective range of a tank battle was dictated by the curvature of the earth, the limitations of optics, and the dispersion of the gun. According to every manual provided by Moscow, a tank engagement happened at 2,000 meters. Anything beyond that was luck. You fired high-explosive fragmentation rounds and hoped to strip away sensors. You did not fire armor-piercing sabots to kill. If the reports are true, the enemy is firing from distances where a T-72 tank appears smaller than a grain of rice in the gun sight. To hit a target that small, while moving, at night, requires a level of mathematical precision that shouldn't exist on a battlefield. The general turns to his technical advisors. Is it the Tau missiles? Are they using helicopters? Negative, sir. The weather is grounded. Too much smoke. No helicopters. Then it is the Americans, the M1A1S. It is a terrifying thought, but even the intelligence on the American Abrams tank suggests a kill range of 2,500 meters. What is happening out there in the dark is beyond the known capabilities of NATO armor. Back on the line, the psychological terror is breaking the Iraqi crews. Inside the remaining T-72 tanks, the gunners are blind. Their night vision relies on active infrared. This system uses a massive infrared searchlight mounted next to the gun. It projects a beam of infrared light, invisible to the naked eye, that illuminates the desert for their own sights. It is like using a flashlight in a dark forest. It works, but it has a fatal flaw. If the enemy has passive thermal sights, technology that sees heat instead of light turning on that infrared searchlight is suicide. It is the equivalent of lighting a flare and waving it over your head while screaming, "I am here." The Iraqi crews know this theory, but they have no choice. They cannot see. Desperation takes over. One by one, the T-72 tanks flicker on their searchlights, trying to find the predator that is eating them alive. 3 miles away, inside the British lines, this act seals their fate. The enemy gunners aren't just looking through glass optics. They are looking at digital screens. The thermal signatures of the Iraqi tanks are glowing white-hot against the cool desert background. When the Iraqis turn on their searchlights, they bloom on the British screens like supernovas. The massacre accelerates. The mystery deepens when a reconnaissance unit manages to inspect a destroyed hull during a brief lull in the fighting. The survivors expect to find the scorch marks of a shaped charge, a missile, or a rocket that burns through armor. That would explain the range. Missiles can fly for miles. Instead, they find a small, clean hole, a kinetic entry wound. The metal around the impact point has behaved like a liquid, splashed outward by the sheer force of the impact. This was a solid metal dart, moving so fast that it turned the armor plate into molten slag upon contact. This discovery chills the blood of the investigators. Missiles fly 3 miles. Solid metal darts do not. Friction and air resistance slow them down. To punch through the frontal armor of a T-72 tank at 3 miles requires a muzzle velocity and a projectile design that defies Soviet understanding of ballistics. The Iraqi army is possessing the largest tank fleet in the region, built on the doctrine of mass and overwhelming force. But they are discovering that mass is irrelevant if you cannot get within fighting distance. They are like a boxer with a 3-foot reach fighting a sniper with a rifle. As the sun begins to bleed through the oil smoke, the scale of the destruction becomes visible. Burning hulks line the horizon. Turrets are planted in the sand like tombstones. And still, the enemy is nowhere to be seen. The survivors retreat, broadcasting a final, terrifying message to Baghdad. We are fighting ghosts. We are dying before we even see the flash. The question burns in the minds of the retreating commanders. What machine can calculate wind, temperature, humidity, and barrel wear to place a shot into a tank turret from a different zip code? And more importantly, why did the Soviet Union, the supposed superpower that armed them, fail to warn them about this? The answer lies in a piece of British engineering that was dismissed by critics, mocked for its complexity, and nearly cancelled before the war even began. As the sun burns off the morning haze, the battlefield reveals a new, twisted irony. The Iraqi commanders, now desperate, rely on the one advantage they believe they still possess: terrain. They pull their remaining armored divisions back, tucking them deep into urban environments and behind heavy concrete fortifications. If they cannot win a duel in the open desert, they will force the enemy to fight close. They know the American Abrams and the older British chieftains rely on kinetic energy penetrators, darts that rely on speed. Speed bleeds off over distance, and against concrete, darts can sometimes overpenetrate or shatter without causing the catastrophic spalling needed to kill a crew inside a bunker. The Iraqi strategy is sound, based on the physics of the smoothbore guns used by the Soviet Union and almost every other NATO nation. Smoothbore guns are like shotguns. They are designed for raw power and high velocity, perfect for shooting darts. But they lack the finesse for long-range demolition. Then, the twist arrives. An Iraqi spotter, hidden in a minaret miles away, watches through binoculars. He sees the silhouette of the enemy tanks cresting a ridge. They look different from the Abrams. They are boxier, heavier, their turrets draped in additional armor blocks that break up their outline. They move strangely, gliding over the rough dunes with a fluid, aquatic grace, unlike the jarring mechanical bounce of the T-72 tanks. The enemy tank halts. The turret rotates with eerie silence. It is aiming at a bunker complex, a reinforced concrete position that should be immune to standard tank fire at this range. The gun fires. But this projectile moves differently. It doesn't fly flat and fast like a dart. It arcs. It follows a high, calculated trajectory, lobbing through the air like an artillery shell. It impacts the concrete wall of the bunker. There is no piercing screech. Instead, there is a dull thud, followed by a delayed, devastating explosion. The concrete doesn't just crack, it atomizes. The shockwave transmits through the wall, blowing deadly scabs of concrete off the inside surface, shredding the men and equipment hiding within. The Iraqi spotter is stunned. This is not a tank gun. This is a sniper rifle crossed with a howitzer. The reports filter back to intelligence. The enemy is using a weapon system that defies the current NATO standard. While the Americans and Germans switched to smoothbore guns to maximize the speed of their darts, this mysterious British machine kept an obsolete technology, a rifled barrel. The grooves inside the barrel spin the projectile, giving it gyroscopic stability. It allows the tank to fire high-explosive squash-head Hesh rounds. These are not darts. They are plastic explosives that flatten against a target before detonating, creating a shockwave that ignores the thickness of the armor and destroys the target from the inside out. And then comes the impossible record. In the heat of the engagement, one specific British tank crew spots an Iraqi T-55 tank unit attempting to flank. The distance is ludicrous. The laser rangefinder flashes a warning. The target is over 4,700 meters away, nearly 3 miles. In a T-72 tank, the gunner would not even bother. The sight lacks the magnification, the computer lacks the ballistic data, and the gun lacks the accuracy. It would be a waste of a shell, but inside the British tank, the gunner is calm. He is not doing the math in his head. A computer from the 1980s, primitive by today's standards but revolutionary for its time, is calculating the rotation of the Earth, the crosswind, the temperature of the propellant, and the droop of the barrel. The commander gives the order. Fire! The round hangs in the air for what feels like an eternity. Seconds tick by. 1, 2, 3, 4. The Iraqi crew in the distance has no idea they are already dead. They are driving, breathing, thinking about their next meal. They do not hear the shot. The shell is traveling faster than the sound of its own launch. Impact. The T-55 tank disintegrates. It is the longest tank-on-tank kill in military history. A shot made from a distance roughly equal to 50 football fields laid end to end. The Iraqi morale collapses. They are fighting a machine that can switch from a hypervelocity sniper to a bunker-busting demo charge instantly. They are fighting a tank that doesn't miss. The Lion of Babylon has been unmasked as a paper tiger, not because the Iraqi soldiers lack courage, they fight fiercely, but because they have brought a knife to a nuclear gunfight. The Soviet technology they trusted, the autoloaders, the smoothbore guns, the infrared searchlights, have all become their coffins. But what exactly is this machine? What is the name of the beast that the British brought to the desert? And why was its success such a shock? Not just to the Iraqis, but to the British government itself, who had almost scrapped the entire project just months before the war. The answer lies in a tank that was built around a single, stubborn philosophy: survival and precision at any cost. The mystery that terrified the Iraqi Republican Guard and baffled the Soviet observers had a name. It wasn't an American Abrams. It wasn't a secret prototype from the future. It was a machine that, just 4 years earlier, had been the laughingstock of NATO. It was the Challenger 1. To understand the magnitude of the shock felt on that desert battlefield, we have to rewind to 1987. In a high-profile NATO tank gunnery competition known as the Canadian Army Trophy, the British Challenger 1 team humiliated themselves. They were slow. They were inaccurate. Their fire control systems were buggy and difficult to use. They placed last. The Americans with their M1S and the Germans with their Leopards looked at the British tank with pity. The British government was so embarrassed that they considered scrapping the entire Challenger fleet before it even saw combat. So, when the Gulf War began, the Iraqi intelligence, fed by Soviet reports, dismissed the British threat. They expected the Challengers to be slow, unreliable, and blind. They made a fatal error. They confused a peacetime competition with real war. In the sanitized environment of a shooting range, speed is everything. But in the chaotic, dirty, zero-visibility nightmare of the Iraqi desert, two things matter more than anything else: survival and optics. And in these two categories, the Challenger 1 was not a failure. It was a monster. The first part of the impossible equation was the armor. When the Iraqi T-70, two tanks did manage to land a hit, a rare occurrence they watched in horror as their shells simply shattered. The Challenger 1 was wrapped in Chobham armor, a highly classified composite material developed in immense secrecy in Surrey, England. Unlike the cast steel of the Soviet tanks, Chobham was a sandwich of ceramics, steel, and elastic layers. When a chemical energy round, like an RPG or heat shell, hit it, the ceramic tiles would shatter, disrupting the jet of molten metal. When a kinetic dart hit it, the varying densities of the layers would snap the rod in half. During the entire Gulf War, despite being in the thick of the heaviest fighting, not a single Challenger 1 was destroyed by enemy fire. The Iraqi tankers were firing at a ghost that was also invulnerable. It broke their will. They were fighting a tank that could shrug off their best shots like rain off a windshield. The second part of the equation, the reason the Iraqis were dying in the dark, was the TOGS, thermal observation and gunnery sight. While the Americans integrated their thermal sights directly into the gunner's primary optic, the British mounted the TOGS in a separate, armoured box on the side of the turret. Critics called it clunky, but in the desert, it was magic. It provided a crystal-clear, high-resolution picture of the thermal landscape. While the Iraqi commanders were squinting through dusty glass prisms, the British commanders were looking at a television screen. They could see the heat rising from a T-72's engine block from miles away. They could see the heads of the Iraqi crew sticking out of the hatches. They could see the difference between a truck and a tank by the heat signature of the wheels. The TOGS turned the night into day. It allowed the British to engage targets long before the Iraqis even knew a battle had started. The ghosts the Iraqis feared were simply men watching TV screens, calmly picking their targets. But the true shock, the moment that rewrote the history books, happened on February 26, 1991. A Challenger 1 from the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards was holding a position along the perimeter. The commander scanned the horizon using the TOGS. The landscape was a flat, shimmering haze of heat and dust. "Contact," the commander announced. "Tank." The gunner looked at his display. He saw a tiny, glowing dot on the horizon. It was an Iraqi tank, likely a T-55 or T-62, moving laterally. The laser rangefinder flashed. The distance was staggering. 4,700 meters. That is nearly 3 miles. 2.9 miles to be exact. In any other tank in the world, even the American M1A1, the commander would have said, out of range. The ballistic computers of the time simply weren't programmed to guarantee a hit at that distance. The margin for error was microscopic. A gust of wind, a fraction of a degree of barrel warp, or a slight miscalculation of the propellant temperature would send the shell missing by hundreds of feet. But the Challenger had the L11A5 rifled gun. Most modern tanks use smoothbore guns, smooth tubes like a musket to fire sabots at extreme speeds. They are fast, but at extreme ranges, they can lose stability. The British gun was rifled. It had spiral grooves cut into the barrel, spinning the projectile like a quarterback throws a football. This spin gave the round gyroscopic stability. It meant that even at 3 miles, the shell would stay true to its path. The crew decided to take the shot. It wasn't just a tactical decision. It was a challenge. Fin on. Action. The loader slammed a depleted uranium fin-stabilized sabot round into the breach. He followed it with a bag charge. The propellant wasn't in a brass casing, but in a silk bag, an old-school method that allowed for safe storage and massive power. Loaded, the gunner laid the crosshairs on the pixelated white dot. The computer calculated the lead. The turret hummed as it made micro-adjustments. Fire! The 120mm gun roared. The massive tank rocked back on its suspension. Because of the distance, the crew had time to wait. The projectile left the barrel at over 3,500 miles per hour, but even at that speed, it took over 5 seconds to cross the 3-mile gap. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. For the Iraqi crew 3 miles away, there was no sound. The shell was traveling supersonic. It arrived before the boom of the gun. 5 Mississippi. On the TOG screen, the white dot flared brilliant white. The kinetic energy of the depleted uranium dart hitting the steel armor at that speed was cataclysmic. It didn't just penetrate. It liquefied the interior of the tank. The fuel ignited. The ammunition cooked off. The Iraqi tank ceased to exist. The British crew sat in silence for a moment, watching the burning wreck on the screen. They had just achieved the longest tank-on-tank kill in military history, a record that stands to this day. For the Soviet Union, observing from the sidelines, this was a catastrophe. Their entire military doctrine was built on the idea of closing the gap. They believed they could rush NATO forces, get inside the 2-kilometer range, and use their superior numbers to overwhelm the West. The Challenger 1 proved that they would never get close enough. The British had proven that with superior optics and rifled accuracy, they could destroy a Soviet tank division before the Soviets could even see them. The T-72, the pride of the export market, had been revealed as a death trap. The monkey model, excuse that the Iraqis had inferior versions, didn't matter. The physics were undeniable. The West could see in the dark. The West could kill from 3 miles away. The West was impenetrable. The shock wasn't that the Iraqis lost. The shock was that a tank the British nearly threw in the garbage had just dismantled the Soviet reputation for armored supremacy. The Challenger 1 served its purpose. It was eventually replaced by the Challenger 2, an even more formidable beast that retained the rifled gun and the philosophy of protection first. But the ghost of that desert war remains. The Iraqi tankers who survived tell stories of the desert beast that hunted them in the dark. They speak of the confusion, the terror of watching their comrades explode without warning, and the realization that their equipment, the steel shields they trusted their lives to, was nothing more than paper against the British steel. The history of warfare is often written by the victors, but the lessons are learned by the defeated. In the sands of Iraq, the lesson was clear: technology matters.
And that was the Cold War. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you're not neutral and that the government has no rights.